Plus were number one.
Hitter off on iron of the room. So that's because the grill has a little lip that goes up. Remember I showed you earlier the center point on this? It goes right there. So Denver actually, what he does is he just marks that marker on the opposite side. So when we hold it up on our line that we did, we know exactly where it's going to end up being. Did you do both sides?
I did.
So this is where the joist is. So what we'll do is we'll make a nice straight line along the joist. This is our center point, and then we'll just simply put the template up there. We'll mark it out like that, and we'll get it really tight. One thing you do got to keep in mind is are you there?
Yeah.
That looks good to me. Little bridge.
Brutal slam. Chain lightning. Brutal slam. Chain lightning. Spike carapace. Brutal slam. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Spike carapace. Chain light carapace. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Brutal slam. Brutal slam. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Spike carapace. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Spiked carapace. Spiked carapace. Spiked carapace. carapace. Chain lightning. Chain lightning. Ricocheting shield. Defensive forward. Heavy arrow. Longbow ring. Wild cleave. Ricocheting shield. Defensive bulwark. Heavy arrow. Wild cleave. Ricocheting shield. Bolt cracker. Heavy arrow. Wild cleave. Ricocheting shield. Defensive forward. Longbow range. Bolt cracker. Longbow range. Longbow range. Brutal slam. Chain lightning. Brutal slam. Brutal slam. Brutal slam. Call of the Deep. Ads. Thundering Slam. Toe. Chain lightning. Call of the Deep. Ads. Thundering Slam. Chain lightning. Thundering Slam. Bloodlust. Chain lightning. Call of the Deep. Ads. Thundering Slam. Total Chain Lightning. Bloodlust. Call of the Deep, Thundering Slam. Ads. Chain Lightning. Totem. Thundering Slam. Bloodlust. Jagged Bite. Ancient Power. Jagged Bite. Ancient Power. Jagged Bite. Jagged Bite. Ancient Power. Jagged Bite. Ancient Power. Jagged Bite. Ancient Power.
Halt! The unworthy will not enter this hallowed place.
Resonating Wall. Inexorable. No. Crushing Stone. Inexorable. Titanic Empowerment. No. Resonating Wall. No. Crushing Stone. Inexorable. Titanic Empowerment. Titanic Empowerment. Inexorable. Resonating Wall. No. Crushing Stone. Inexorable. Titanic Empowerment. No. Resonating Wall. No. Crushing Stone. Inexorable. Inexorable. Titanic Empowerment. Titanic Empowerment. Now shield stone next level. Resonating thought. Now shield stone next level. Titanic empowerment.
Strength!
Inexorable.
Not for you!
Kind of lifeless. What now? All I see are bulls.
Maybe we can
Pillar
find
of
a
stone.
good treasure map. We'll have a look while you go on ahead.
Hail of stone. Hail of stone. Earthen wall. Curse of stone. Curse of stone. Earthen ward. Hail of stone. Hail of stone. Earthen ward. Curse of stone. Fishering slam. Difficult terrain. Hail of stone. 3. Curse of stone. 2. 1. AoE. Earthen wall. Fishering slam. Fishering slam. Hail of stone. Fishering slam. 3. Terrain. 2. 1. AoE. Fishering slam. Difficult terrain. Sonic burst. Sonic burst. Sonic burst.
passes.
Searing blast. Unstable embers. Spread. Unstable embers. Spread. Searing blast. Purging flames.
Purge.
Infusion. 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 Purging flames. Unstable embers.
Target acquired.
Spread. Searing blast. Unstable embers.
Target.
Spread. Unstable embers. Spread. Searing blast. Purging flames.
Intervene.
Purge.
Infusion. 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 Purging flames. Unstable embers.
Target acquired.
Spread. Searing cloud. Unstable embers.
Enemy.
Spread.
Whoa! Look at all this stuff!
The heroes. You can keep searching for whatever it is you folks are after. Yeah, we're calling dibs on this room.
Hail of stone.
Game travels all.
Thunderous cloud. Hail of stone. Thunderous cloud. Hail of stone. Thunderous cloud. Hail of stone. Hail of stone. Thunderous cloud. Hail of stone. Hail of stone. Thunderous clap. Thunderous clap. Thunderous clap.
What have we here?
Curse of Stone.
I suspect.
Earthen Ward. Thunderous clap.
I fear I will have to
Trapped in
deny
stone.
your queen her prize. The disc you seek will be mine.
Thunderous clap. AoE. The Horse of Stone. Earthen Ward. Curse of Stone. Earthen Ward.
This disc will hold the secret to the aspects regaining their power, and we cannot allow that to happen. Now the disc is lost to time, just as you are about to be.
Intervene.
Timelines, you failed to stop.
Time sync. Not puppet.
Mana potion.
Sand breath. Time
lost in the sands.
Knock. Time sink. Sand breath. Rewind time flow. So. Rewind time flow. Breath.
Be lost in time.
Knock. Time sink. Sand breath.
In the sands.
Knock. Time sink. Sand breath.
Be lost in time.
Rewind time flow. So. No. Time sink. Sand breath.
Your efforts are impressive, but in vain. The timelines are converging. There will be only one aspect, and Murison shall be infinite!
I used to do all the cutting, but they don't let me do it anymore. I don't know why. Weird. So now we're ready to hang the cassette. Remember to reach inside there. They set your condensation drain inside on top of the coil, just for packaging reasons. So make sure to take that out. I'm sure you can still get to it once it's up there, but this way nothing's, falling on your face. Whoops.
So this is the template that comes with the cassette. It's pretty cool. So like, let's say if you're doing a new construction build out, you actually need to use this. This actually, if you look in here, it has the holes in it. So these are designed so that when you're done during new construction, because obviously drywall and everything's not done, you actually put this up in there and you use these little holes that are already in on all four, and you put the screws up there to hold it up there during construction. So when they're all done with drywall, they actually know where to cut out the drywall and run your drywall too.
I have many wares.
Install, but I actually like to take these little cardboard pieces off it makes it a little bit easier. But what Denver does is, if you see this little line here, it's your center point. So what we'll do is we'll put a little line back here, and then we use that to hold it up like this, and then we trace it out real fast underneath with the marker, and then we'll cut it out from there. So Denver's moving the insulation right now. Once that's done, then we're going to mark it out, and then we're going to get cut.
Do not throw this template away. You're going to use it probably 3 or 4 different times throughout the installation. You're going to use it to find your center. You're going to use it to mark your outside. We're going to use it to mark our holes, and if it's, like Jared said earlier, if it's new construction, we're going to use it to cover the unit and keep it clean. So don't throw this away until you're done.
So we're gonna we measured the distance between this, so we found the center location of the room. Denver actually was just up in the attic, and he located where the joists are. So the joists run this way, and they're about 20 inches apart. Were you saying that joist is like right in this area, right in here?
Yep, right in this area here.
So here's where you get, you got to get your technicals into fact, because if you try to cut it and go this way, you're not going to have enough room to put your grill on there, right? So now we're going to have to cut it this way towards the next joist, so we'll have enough room to be able to put the grill up in there and have it look good. So always keep that in mind. Some guys will cut it and then they'll start going that way, and then they'll realize, whoops, can't go that way. So that's our favorite word, whoops. You don't want to be using those on a job. So but once Denver's going to go up there, there's a little bit of blown in insulation. We like to push that away from each side so that where we do our cut, we don't get a pile of insulation pouring down in the, push that over as far as possible. And then we're going to cut out and mark the hole. I'm going to open up the ceiling cassette. It's in that box right there, and it does have a little template in there. And then we'll use that to trace out and mark our line once we get a little straight edge off of the joist. So, hey everybody, this is Jared again. I just wanted to show you, this is Denver's little technique. So remember I showed you earlier the center point on this, it goes right there. So Denver actually, what he does is he just marks that marker on the opposite side. So when we hold it up on our line that we did, we know exactly where it's going to end up being.
If you're considering a ceiling cassette system for your home or commercial space, the Mitsubishi ceiling cassette should be on the top of your list. This innovative system was introduced by Mitsubishi in 2018 specifically for the U.S. market. Here are a few things you should consider when purchasing this system. 1. Size and fit. The Mitsubishi MLZ Easy Fit was designed to fit the most common joists in the United States, 18 inches on center. The unique dimensions of U.S. joists make most ceiling cassette projects more difficult and uneconomical to install for residential applications. Most manufacturers only produce ceiling cassettes that are 24 inches by 24 inches or 30 inches by 30 inches. Mitsubishi was the first to introduce a unit that fits between 18-inch joists. The width is 16 and 11/16 and the length is 38 and 1/16 inches. 2. Airflow. This Mitsubishi system is a one-way ceiling cassette. This means that airflow comes out of one vent. The other vent is designed for the air return. The air supply vent can be adjusted to control the swing and angle of the airflow. For most living spaces, you should set the swing horizontally so that the system can deliver precise heating and cooling comfort without any direct airflow to the occupants. 3. Capacity. This system comes in a 9K BTU, 12K BTU, and 18K BTU. If you're looking for a system for a larger space, you will need to use the square 4-way ceiling cassette. 4. Noise level. These systems are super quiet. They can be as low as 21 decibels and can operate at up to 22 SEER. Super quiet, super efficient, and super reliable. 5. Water pump. These systems come with a built-in water pump. You can use the built-in water pump to discharge the condensate water. There is no need to add an extra water pump to the side of the unit. Use them in a condenser that has up to 5 zones. There are also VRF solutions with more than 5 ports. 7. Remote controls and Kumo Cloud. The MLZ Easy Fit comes with a remote control, but some of our customers choose to add the Kumo Cloud app. With the Kumo Cloud app, you can control your heating and AC through any smartphone. Kumo Cloud is compatible with Android and iOS. 8. Warranty and reliability. These systems come with a 10-year manufacturer warranty and the reliability that you expect from Mitsubishi. A well-installed system can last 10 to 20 years. 9. Mitsubishi, Trane, American Standard. Mitsubishi, Trane, and American Standard merged their operations to manufacture and sell ductless mini-split products in the United States. These units can be branded as Mitsubishi Easy Fit, Trane Mitsubishi Connect One-Way Cassette, or American Standard Mitsubishi Naxox One-Way Cassette. All these products are exactly the same and are in fact interchangeable. They are all produced in the same factory, and the only difference is the logo on the front face. Depending on where you are in the country, your local HVAC contractor may introduce you to these products as Mitsubishi, Trane, or American Standard. If you are located in California and are interested in Mitsubishi ceiling cassette systems, please call us or visit one of our showrooms. Our team of Mitsubishi specialists are happy to answer any and all of your questions.
Here we are with Kyle, a beautiful rainy day. And missed these. Yeah, we really missed them. So here we are. We've got Kyle, go ahead and take it away. You designed this job and sold it, so just tell us what we've got here.
Yeah, so when I came here, the homeowners had a existing forced air heat pump system and propane furnace backup.
The monitoring our out night condensation.
Rises back up to the drain.
Got a 6-inch duct.
High there,
If you're considering a ceiling cassette system for your home or commercial space, the Mitsubishi ceiling cassette should be on the top.
There's a new thing this year, the DIY ceiling cassette. It's one of the most versatile ceiling units ever, fitting perfectly between traditional 16-inch on-center ceiling joists and pre-manufactured I-joists. Best of all, it can work within traditional Mr. Cool DIY configurations, so it's fully compatible with our innovative, patented Quick Connect pre-charge line sets. And let your ladder gather dust, because the air filter itself can now be lowered remotely. That's right, cleaning the air filter is now a breeze. Plus, it has the best warranty in the industry. Lifetime compressor, 7-year replacement, and 5-year parts warranty. The DIY Sealing Cassette from Mr. Cool. Coming soon. The Mr. Cool DIY Sealing Cassette is the newest addition to the DIY system. It's a cutting-edge, do-it-yourself ductless mini-split, versatile enough for most any space or climate. And here is how you install it. The first thing to do is find the install location for the cassette and the outdoor unit. Figure out where you want the cassette first. It's designed to fit and mount between 2 ceiling joists that are 16 inches apart. So find a good spot in your desired room and, based on its placement and where the line sets will connect, figure out the best place to put the outdoor unit. The line set will run from the cassette out of an exterior wall to the unit, which needs to be on solid and firm ground. Also, there are minimum clearances to keep in mind for the condenser, shown here, to ensure it is running optimally. If your room has a finished ceiling, the next step is cutting the hole for your cassette. First, using the provided cardboard template, cut a 16.9 inch by 51.2 inch hole with a ceiling thickness of 5/8 of an inch. And of course, make sure you do not cut into electrical wiring, plumbing, or other sensitive components. Once you've made the hole, clear any obstructions above that will prevent the cassette from fitting up into the space. Now you're ready to install the cassette in the ceiling above. Determine the orientation so that the line set will connect easily to the unit, and make sure you've got a helper to hoist and hold the unit up. Once ready, lift the cassette carefully into the hole you made between the joists. Make sure the mounting flanges on each side of the unit sit flat against the ceiling joists. Next, mount the unit to the ceiling joists by installing 6 of the provided screws through the holes of the unit mounting flanges and into the joists. Make sure they are fully threaded and will not loosen over time. Now you'll connect the DIY Pro cable to the indoor unit from below. There are 4 screws to remove to access the control and circuit breaker box. Once those are out of the way, you'll want to remove one of the 2 circular covers pictured here. Once removed, feed the side of the Pro cable with a metal clad through the hole and into the breaker box. Next, you'll connect the numbered wires to the corresponding numbered terminals of the circuit breaker box. Then, you'll fasten the ground wire to the screw on the metal plate in front of the terminals, and secure the metal clad and wire body to a circuit breaker box, and reinstall the circuit breaker cover. As always, consult the manual for a more thorough breakdown. Next, you'll drill a hole to connect the cassette with the outdoor unit on an exterior wall nearest to where the outdoor unit will be placed. Using a core drill with a 3.54 inch diameter, drill a hole and insert the protective wall sleeve, trimming excess for a flush and professional fit. Then, you'll go outside and unwind enough of the patented pre-charged quick connect line set to go into the hole and reach the cassette. Keep any excess line wound up outside. Once you've got it in place, grab the right tools and head upstairs to connect the line sets to the cassette. First, align the quick connectors with the adapters of the cassette. Take the seals off and place the connector of the line set just onto the threads of the piping connection point, and tighten a few threads by hand. Then, use adjustable crescent wrenches to tighten the quick connect line set to the cassette. It's important you don't over-tighten or under-tighten. So once the connector is snug, turn the wrench slightly to ensure it's all the way, but be wary of going too tight. Once secure, apply a soapy water solution or a leak detection spray to the connection via a spray bottle or brush. If any bubbles begin to form, there is a leak, and the connection needs to be retightened. Once connection is made, wrap each connection point with the supplied sound deadening pads, or as in the example shown, pipe insulation tape. Then install the 2 included insulation sleeves over each of the wrapped connections. Secure the end close to the connection pipe of each piece of insulation foam with the supplied cable ties to prevent water leakage. Then install the water receiver tray under the line set connections with the screws provided. Next up is the drain pipe and adapter to move condensate safely from the cassette to outside your home. The adapter comes with a cassette, but the drain pipe itself needs to be purchased separately. First, you'll attach the drain pipe adapter to the drain outlet port, and you'll place one of the provided clamps over the other side of the adapter and slide in the drain pipe. Then you'll tighten the clamps to ensure they're secure. Now, pass the drain pipe through the wall hole to the exterior of the house. Once done, you'll head outside for the next step. Make your way to where the line set protrudes from the wall. Put your hand under the line set right where it comes out of the hole, then carefully apply pressure evenly to bend the line downward toward the wall. Be mindful not to damage the piping in the process. Once bent down, pack the wall hole with the supplied neoprene. For a nice professional look, purchase the Mr. Cool line guard to cover and protect the line set. Now it's time to connect the line sets to the outdoor condenser. Remove the water tray from the side and align the refrigerant pipes so they line up to the corresponding valves and have enough slack. Then begin tightening the refrigerant line onto the first few threads by hand. Next, using 2 adjustable crescent wrenches, tighten the line set further, continuing to tighten until snug. Once done, you'll open the refrigerant valves. This releases the refrigerant from the line set into the whole system. First, remove the cover on the top valve. Then insert a 5mm Allen key and open the valve by turning counterclockwise as far as it'll go. Do not force it any further. The valve is now open. Screw the cover back onto the top valve and tighten it well to ensure it's sealed. Repeat the same process on the bottom valve and any other additional valves. Then, if part of a 3, 4, or 5 zone multi-system, you'll need to open the 2 main valves or king valves using the same process. Once opened, reinstall the caps. Then use leak detection spray or a soapy water solution to test connection. If bubbles appear, you'll need to tighten the line set connections further. Then you'll head inside to mount the air intake grill. With assistance from another person, carefully raise and position the cassette panel into place. Allow the intake grill to hang. This will give access to holes for the mounting screws. Carefully align the panel with the cassette and install mounting screws. One is behind the louver or air deflector, so you'll need to manually rotate it out of the way. Then secure the panel using provided screws. Next, you'll connect the panel's display board to indoor unit's main board. There are 4 color-coded wires and ports that need to be connected. Once connected, you'll reinstall any control box covers you removed through mounting screws and close both sides of the panel. Then, flip the circuit breaker switch to the on position. Next, you'll install the wireless controller module. Removing the module's cap, open the side of the cassette that contains the display panel. On the back of the panel is a cover that is held in place with a screw. Loosen it and remove the panel. Once the panel is open, insert the wireless module into the designated interface. Then reinstall the cover and close the side panel. Next up is electrical connections. All wiring must comply with local and national electrical codes and regulations, and must be installed by a licensed electrician. Once they're done, you're ready for a test run. The test should last at least 30 minutes to ensure you're A-OK. You'll first turn on the main power switch, set the air conditioner to cool mode, and perform several checks during that 30 minutes, making sure room temp is being displayed correctly, the drainage system is unimpeded and draining, and no abnormal noise is coming from your system. All these checks and more are listed in the manual. If you have any issues, call our customer service team at 1-270-366-0457, and they'll get you taken care of. Once the test is complete, it's time to sit back and enjoy your Mr. Cool DIY sealing cassette. Thanks for watching. Mr. Cool, comfort made simple.
There are probably 3 things I wish I knew about mini splits before I installed mine, and I want to share those with you today. The first thing I want to share is a little more universal, but basically it's how much quieter they are and how much faster they are, especially when compared to the window unit that I used to have here. In my shop, I've had this 84-pound beast blocking half of my view and hanging its butt out the window since the time I built this shop. And I've used this as my sole source of heating and air conditioning for this particular building here. And it's done an okay job, but it's slow to heat things up, it's slow to cool things down, and it is just loud. So these are all things that I haven't enjoyed about that. Not to mention there's a danger factor, at least for my situation. Every time I mowed the lawn, I'd have to watch my head for that corner and the edge of that thing hanging out the side of the wall here. And it was always dangerous. I have smacked my head on that thing several times, believe it or not. I've even cut myself because that thing is just so in the way. So I'm glad to have that out of my life. And ever since installing the mini split, I've noticed a few things. Number 1, I have my view back. So half my window isn't missing over here, which is a definite good thing. Number 2, it is so much quieter. Because that was an all-in-one unit and everything was right there, you hear the fans, you hear the noise, and it's distracting and it's loud. I end up filming in here quite a bit, so I actually had to turn that off while I filmed, which would make me extra cool or extra hot, and then I'd have to stop the camera and then turn the thing back on and hope it could heat up, but it still couldn't catch up quite as fast as a mini split can. With the mini split, your fan is separate, your condenser is outside, and so you're not hearing that. The other nice and convenient thing about the mini splits is that they're up and they're out of the way. Now, I'm not trying to make this a sales pitch, I'm just trying to tell you kind of the night and day difference we've seen when installing a mini split versus a window unit. The same thing applies, we've tried heaters, the little mobile heaters that you can put around, as well as the little mobile air conditioning units, and they are loud, they're in the way, they're inconvenient. So the mini split has been a big win in all those aspects. Now, the second thing I think everyone should know about is that there are a lot of advertisements for this Mr. Cool 3rd Gen DIY mini split. It's a pretty awesome product. There's a few main differences between a product like that and its competition of comparable specs. Now, one of the biggest things besides those 3 is the price. So for example, I ended up going with a unit called Tosot, and for the 12,000 BTU 220 volt unit, That one costs $920. If you get the comparable one from Mr. Cool, that's gonna run you $1,500. So what's the difference in 580 bucks? Why is it so much more? Well, there's three things that I was able to find. The first one, and probably most important, is that the Mr. Cool has what are called pre-charged lines, where the line sets that connect your indoor unit to your outdoor unit are pre-charged. You don't have to vacuum pump them, and that's very convenient. It's a nice thing. And I think that's a lot of what gives it the DIY title. Now, the fact is, when I did some research, you can actually buy a vacuum pump and the gauges and everything you need to do this yourself in under 30 minutes for 130 bucks. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So 130 bucks for the biggest factor of that price difference. I'll put links in the description below to exactly what that looks like. Now, I actually made a video that you can check out that shows exactly how I went through this process, and it walks you through every bit of it. So if you're interested in seeing what's involved in that, you can see that video up here. Now, the second thing that's different is that those lines have what are called quick connect connections. And that is also very convenient. It's a really nice thing. Basically, instead of using two adjustable wrenches to connect your lines, you just do kind of a slip-on quick connect thing and you're sealed up and you're good to go. Again, very convenient, but it's gonna save you literally a few minutes maybe, and not, to me, worth that extra price. The third big difference is Wi-Fi or smart capability. Basically, with a Mr. Cool, it's got the Wi-Fi built in, which I think is awesome. That is a great feature to have. And that's something I wanted for mine, and it didn't come with Wi-Fi until I discovered that you can get something like this. This is called the Sensibo Sky. It runs about 100 bucks. I just got mine the other day with a coupon, 15 bucks off. So $85 for this, and this gives me full control. I can use my Alexa, my Google, my Siri, any of those. And basically I can control the temperature. I can turn it on or off. I can set it to a consistent temperature. I can tell the shop basically out here where I'm at to warm up or cool down before I come out. Alexa, set woodshop AC to 68 degrees.
The heat's set to 68.
Any of those sorts of things for a little add-on like this. Very cool. So what it comes down to is you're paying $580 more for these three differences, but I just don't think they're worth 580 bucks. If I can basically pay, let's say, 230 bucks at most for those three differences, then I get to keep that other 350, and that's money in my pocket. So I'm definitely gonna go with something a little more affordable and take care of those things myself. Now, the third thing I think a lot of people don't realize before getting a mini split is that there is a lot of electrical work involved in doing this. This is not something that you can just plug into the wall, for example. A lot of window units, I know you can actually just plug into a standard 110 volt outlet. That is not the case here. Even my window unit that I've been using this whole time, I actually bought it while I was building this shop so that I could run a 220 volt wire, which is what it required, and do the specific outlet that it needed and put that in the shop so I could plug it in. Don't know how much use I'm gonna have for that 220 volt because it's got a kind of a funky plug, but I've got that plug if I wanna try something else with it, and I needed that to run that size of a window unit. The mini split is kind of like a central air sort of thing, but it's a ductless mini split. I mean, you do have to have a lot of the same features that you have on a full-size air conditioning system. Because it's a fairly large and capable unit, there are a few caveats with that. And number one is, by code in the United States, you need to have what's called an AC disconnect hooked up to your condenser. Basically, your condenser is that outside fan part that controls everything and pumps the air in, cools it down, heats it up, all of that. And near that, within a few feet of that, you need to have a switch, basically a big AC disconnect, where if a service technician comes to your place to work on it, he can just turn that off, whether it's a flip off or you pull a plug, remove a fuse, whatever the case may be. And these are cheap, they cost like 13 bucks, but that has to be there. That's electrical work that someone has to do. In addition, you're almost definitely going to have to run a new circuit breaker in your circuit breaker panel and then run that with the appropriate sized Romex cable to that AC disconnect, and then you use what's called a whip to connect your AC disconnect to your condenser. Now, if this all sounds totally overwhelming, that's understandable. And again, in my other walkthrough video, I'll show you all the steps for that. You can check that out. But there's a lot of electrical work. Now, the cost for all of that electrical stuff that I mentioned, by the way, is not very much. It's anywhere between 50 to 150 US dollars, depending on your setup. And most of that depends on how close your circuit breaker panel is to your condenser and what's in between. Now, this is not something that's specific to any one type of mini split. This is all mini splits. Even if they're a 110 volt, 9000 BTU, the smallest units that you can typically get, you still need to do all the same amount of work. It's just a code requirement in order to do this. You can't plug them in, there's no wall outlet that you're gonna be able to throw that on, and you're not supposed to be able to do that, at least within the United States. In other countries, that may be an option, but certainly not here. So you'll wanna check with your local code to see what's involved with that, and maybe check out that other video to see if it makes sense for you and if you're comfortable doing all that. So with all those three things mentioned, I have to say that having installed the mini split, I love it and I would do it again in a heartbeat. All of those steps, they may seem kind of overwhelming, but there's a few things that I just wanted you to know about before you get into a mini split and see that you can do it yourself. You just have to be aware of what you're getting into. Now, as I mentioned before, I'll put links to all of the products that I've mentioned here and all of the things we've talked about in the description. If you do want to look for a unit that I've trusted and that I've been using and enjoying, I'm using what's called Tosote, and you can actually get a much better deal by buying from their website, and they'll still ship free anywhere in the United States, but that's a lot cheaper price than buying on Amazon. So check out those links if you're interested. And if you have questions about installing a mini split, leave those in the comments below and I'll do my best to help out there. I'm Nils with Learn to DIY. Thanks for watching. I have spent days and days researching mini splits, all the different options that are out there, as well as the full installation process. I then went through that process myself, installed everything as a first timer, and I found that there were so many details that get skipped or glossed over in other videos or articles. Today, I'm going to share with you every single step that you need to properly install a mini split yourself with no problems, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll feel totally confident to do this yourself. First thing we're going to do is figure out where the studs are on the indoor unit. Now, this is not technically required. You can actually do this just with the drywall anchors that are included, but by knowing where the studs are, if it happens to line up well there, you can use those. A few things to consider are, number one, that you need about 6 inches of space above it and 6 inches to either side. And the manual is a little confusing because it often talks about how you need 8 to 9 feet underneath it. So you want this 8 to 9 feet in the air. This is a little bit taller ceiling than normal. This is 9 feet, but obviously I can't put it 9 feet in the air and still have 6 inches above. So basically, if you've got an 8 to 9, even a 10-foot ceiling, put it 6 inches away from the very top. Now I'm gonna mark a few holes where I want this to be installed, and there's like 1,000 holes in here. So you basically wanna pick the ones that match the best. If there's a stud, great. Otherwise you can do just some that are spread out, make sure they're symmetrical from one another, and you'll be in good shape. I'm gonna use a 1/4 inch drill to drill the holes out here. Okay, and then I'm gonna tap in the included drywall anchors. Once you've got your first screw in, it's a good idea to make sure everything is level. Right there, perfect. Then I can secure the others. The instructions I'm showing here are applicable to just about any mini split on the market, but the specific unit I'm using here is made by Tosote. This is a 12,000 BTU unit. It's super efficient and it's probably overkill for my space, but it's definitely got everything that I need and it works as a great heater and air conditioner. There's actually one big difference between, for example, the Mr. Cool DIY unit and a unit like this Tosote, and it's a difference that costs you hundreds of dollars. I'm going to show you in just a few minutes the steps that you need to do the vacuum pumping yourself so that you can save that money and put it in your pocket. If you're considering buying a Tosote mini split, definitely check out the links in the description below because you can save more by getting it directly from the website than going to Amazon, and it still has free shipping. We need to prepare the indoor unit, so to do that we're going to flip this over, and I've already removed the mounting plate that was attached right here, and so that one's taken off. There's just one screw right here holding that in place. And then we have to figure out where the exhaust and all the pipes are going to go. So they could go out straight out this way, they could go out the side, and if they need to go out the side, you can knock out this panel just by using some wire cutters or even some stronger scissors to remove this whole panel here. Otherwise it stays in place as a decorative cover. And then it can also go out this side or right at the back or out this side. So in my case, this needs to go out the lower left right here. So I want everything to come out this way, straight through the wall. So I'm gonna remove our drain pipe here. Now this I don't actually need to move at all. It's just gonna stay right where it is, but I do need to expose all of this so that we can get it connected to our pipes. This part right here is just a little cap, and you're gonna hear it drain, a little bit of gas come out, which is a good sound. We wanna hear that when I pierce this. So I'm just gonna use the end of my pliers here. Okay, good. That's the sound we want. And then I can remove that black cap. And then we'll do the same thing over here. This one doesn't need to be pierced. Just need to remove that cap. Next, we need to straighten out our copper pipes here. And so you can put some gentle pressure. You can kind of step on them. But I'm outside. I'm just going to roll these out to try to get them as straight as can be. It doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Now that we've straightened out our lines, we're going to remove the covers from these. Then we're going to thread these on, making sure to thread this part, not this one. This one shouldn't twist. Line it up. There. We want it snug, but you don't need to crank the thing down. There we go. Next, we're going to pop the cover open on our Toso unit here, and then we need to access our wire connections under here. So just remove the one Phillips screw, push this panel out a little bit like that. We'll set that aside, and that gives us access to our neutral 1, 2, and 3 and ground wires here. We've got 2 sets of wires available that come with your kit. So you've got one that has 3 plus a ground and one that has 2 plus a ground. The 2 plus a ground, we're going to set that aside. That's our power wires for later. This is our signal cable, and these are the 3 that we're going to use. Now that we've got that front panel ready, we're going to feed the wires through this hole in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4 in there, and then push them out the front. Once they're out the front, we flip it back onto its back, and now we can connect the wires into the terminals. Be sure to check your manual to see which screws go in which color wires, and then we'll tighten each one of these down. Once we've got our 3 connections in place, we need to fasten down the wire here. So we're going to remove our wire tie down and then put that screw back in. And that makes it so that if the signal cable here gets pulled, it's not going to pull these connections loose. With that, we're ready to put our service panel cover back on. So we need to cover this part up, and you can just actually tear this stuff up really easily to get the length that you need. I'm going to go a little shorter than that. And then you can just open it up, wrap it around, and then use some electrical tape to cover everything up. And it's a good idea to do this in the direction that you're actually moving. So you want your tape to be moving away from the indoor unit. So in my case, it's going to be from this side out this way. So I'm just going to wrap some of this up starting over here. And there we go. Next, we're going to cover this back up as much as we can. There's great. Now with our signal cable in the binding here, or in the mix, I'm just going to start wrapping all of this up with my insulating tape, and I'm going to again start from this side and work my way down quite a ways down these lines. Now this stuff tends to stick pretty well to itself, but it doesn't stick to much of anything else. In fact, I'm going to buy myself a little space by pushing this out like so and bind it up. Now about the time that you get to your drain pipe, you've got to figure out which way this is all going to exit. And so in my case, it's actually going to come straight out the back of the indoor unit here. So I need to very carefully bend these pipes. I'm going to do kind of a soft bend as best I can to where they come out away from the indoor unit like that. And then I'm going to keep wrapping and wrap everything together at this point, including the drain. When we get towards the end of the drain pipe here, we're going to connect the extension on there, like so, and then we'll just keep on going all the way down the line. Okay. Now that I've got most of my line wrapped here, the next thing we need to do is to drill the hole for the line to fit through the wall. Now in order to do this, I've measured the unit for the indoor piece here, as well as where this comes out, the line will come out, and how that fits in relation to the tabs that will fit inside our mounting bracket. Now I've got the spot marked right here, and just make sure to double check your measurements on this. I know my shirt says I only measure once, it's a joke. Make sure to measure twice or 3 times so that you don't have to drill multiple holes through your wall. I'm using a 2 1/8 inch hole saw here. This is one I've used many times, and that's kind of the perfect size. You can do a 2 inch, but that's pretty tight, so if you can get a little over 2 inch, that's definitely best. When I drill this hole, I'm aiming for a 5 to 10 degree angle upward. So instead of perpendicular to the wall like this, I'm gonna angle it up just a little bit like this for drainage to help everything slope downward. Okay, there's my plug, and this is insulated, so I've got some insulation here that I'm gonna have to cut through and move out of the way. Now, because hole saws have a pilot drill bit like this one, I just need to drill a small hole that gets through to the other side. So I've mounted a slightly longer drill bit here that's also a 1/4 inch, this little spade bit. And again, I'm gonna hold it at a little bit of an angle, 5 to 10 degrees up. And my goal here is just to drill a hole through to the outside of the shop. Okay, I've got daylight there, so we're in good shape. So we're able to see the hole that poked through on the outside. So I'll line that up with my pilot drill bit, get that little bit of an angle upward in this case, and then drill that hole through. Okay, so I'm through my outside paneling. Okay. There we go. So make sure between layers, you might have to pop the board out depending on what your outside piece is. If you have stucco, for example, you might have some chicken wire back there and some mesh. And so you got to do whatever you got to do to get through this and make that hole. Okay, now that I've got this ready and the hole punched through, I'm going to feed my longest wire, which in this case is the signal, out. Have that come out the hole. And then I've got these bottom 2 sections of the lines unwrapped. I'm gonna carefully feed those out, trying not to tear the foam insulators. There they go. So far, so good, I think. This is where it's definitely handy to have 2 people. And I might need to go on the other side to pull the slack out before I continue. There we go. There we go. Okay. Carefully feed this out. And this is why we wrapped it from the indoor unit towards the outdoor. That are sticking out. There we go, just a little bit. And now, oh, look at that, beautiful. That is exactly where we need it. Indoor unit is installed. Looks level. I think we're in good shape.
Once those lines are installed, you can use the included gum type sealer to pack everything in and then place the sleeve around the outside. This just keeps all of the elements out and keeps everything insulated and waterproof. I'll come back at the end and do a bit of caulking here just to finish things up.
Now, as far as mounting the outside piece here, the condenser, we have a few options. One option is to pour a concrete pad and set it in the concrete pad and bolt it down. That is kind of a pain in the butt to do, honestly. So there's a much easier and less expensive and faster way to do that, and that's using this wall mount bracket for a condenser. So this one is rated for up to 300 pounds, which is way overkill. If I'm not mistaken, this unit weighs about 83 pounds. So I just got this one because it's local and I didn't want to wait. I wanted to get this done today. So that's the one I'm going to be using. However, I'll put some links in the description to ones that start at about 30 bucks and go up to maybe 60 or 70 bucks. and those can be delivered in just a couple of days, and you can buy those along with the other parts that I'm going to show you that we'll use in just a minute here. Now, as far as spacing, it's recommended that you have about 1 foot on the left and the back of the unit. On the right, you need a little more, maybe 20 inches of space, as well as on the top. And then ideally, you should have many feet of space in front of it so that it can pull in as much air as it needs to. The first thing you need to do is locate where the studs are so that you make sure you're fastening this top rail into the studs. And then I highly recommend that you pre-drill everything for the lag bolts that go in. Be sure to use a level so you don't have a crooked condenser out there. From there, you can fit the arms to where they need to go, and you can check these for level as well. This kit makes it pretty easy with several adjustment places to be able to make sure the arms are nice and level. These brackets also allow you to fasten in each of the arms so that everything is totally secure. Nothing is going to be shaking or vibrating on this. Now, of course, it was only then that I realized that I had better actually measure how far apart the feet on the condenser were, and I had to remove those lag bolts, spread everything out a little bit, and then get that right measurement. I then put the condenser on the brackets and then fastened everything down. Now, just a reminder, you want to make sure to put that condenser as far away from that wall as you can. Ideally, you're going for about 12 inches of space. The last step is just to install the drain on the bottom of the condenser. Next, we need to figure out if you're going to cut the lines or coil them like I'm doing here. Now, in most videos that you'll see, they coil the lines, and the reason is it really does almost nothing as far as the impact on efficiency or anything like that. If you do have a flaring kit and you have the desire to cut those lines to length, you can do that. It's not very difficult, and flaring kits are only about $25 at Harbor Freight. But if it's only a coil or two like I've got in my scenario here, a lot of times it makes sense just to go ahead and coil it up, place that behind, and then connect it that way. When you've got your coils in place, you can finish wrapping up the low pressure and high pressure lines, and you wrap those individually like I'm doing here. And then from there, you've got your 3 stems coming out: high pressure, low pressure, and the signal cable. Next, I needed to cut my drain pipe free from the tape. I used a blade to cut the drain pipe out very carefully so that I wouldn't damage anything else. My goal here was really just to get it free enough to where it would drain down onto the ground. Very little water comes out of these, so I just needed enough to get those few drops to be able to go to the right place rather than following the line down. Next, I remove the service panel for the high and low pressure lines. Remove the covers for the lines, and I'm using a pair of vice grips here just to hold the fixture secure so that I'm not torquing against the actual unit itself. This just helps prevent any breakage or kinking or damages. Now, just like before, you can use some nylon glue if you want to here. I didn't use any and didn't have any issues with leaking or anything like that, so it's not required, but it can help. It's just an added level of security there. I tightened down my lines for both high and low pressure. And as far as torque, there is a chart that's included, but most of us don't have a way to really test that and get the exact right torque. So just get it snug and make sure it's on there nice and tight. Next, remove your remaining 3 caps for the service port and the valves. Now, when you buy your mini split, it's either going to come with lines that are pre-evacuated, or you may need to evacuate it yourself using a vacuum pump like you see here. Now, believe it or not, this step saves you hundreds of dollars by buying the kind that are not pre-evacuated. This little 5 CFM pump cost only $116, and I'll put links to that in the description. It comes with its own oil, so the first thing you'll need to do is fill it up in between the min and max lines using the little bubble indicator on the front of the pump. The next piece you'll need to purchase is the 2-way manifold gauge set. Again, links are in the description, and these go for about $60 on Amazon. And the last piece that you're going to need is a 5/16 quick coupler to 1/4 inch male flare adapter. You can get a 2-pack of these for about $9 online, or you can often find them at local plumbing or HVAC stores nearby. This piece screws into the blue pipe from the manifold gauge set. The adapter then gets fastened into the service port on the low pressure line. So here's the entire setup as far as the vacuum pump is concerned. Your yellow line goes from the vacuum pump to the middle port on the manifold gauge, and then your blue line goes on the left port of the manifold gauge and then into the service port of the low pressure line on your condenser. Now, this part is optional. I actually don't know if it helps any, but I did cap off the right port. I actually don't think it matters as long as you close that right valve. Now, I'm closing the left valve here as well before I turn the pump on, and then when you're ready to start the system, open that left valve up and then turn on the vacuum pump. Watch that dial indicator on the left dial. You'll see it go down. There we go. You should see the needle go to about -30 on the gauge.
and then that's going to go down. You're going to let this run for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, take a look and make sure everything is still good. And by still good, I mean it's still at -30. It shouldn't be moving much, shouldn't be going up, shouldn't be going down much. Once it's gotten to that original state, it should be staying there. If everything looks good, then close that left dial altogether. Turn off the vacuum pump. At this point, you want to let it sit for about 5 minutes or more. In fact, I gave it 15 minutes again just to be sure. And what we're looking for is that once again, nothing is moving. We want to make sure that it's not losing pressure, that we're not getting any air in the lines, and that nothing is going wrong there. Assuming that's the case, you can start to disconnect everything. Disconnect your service port. Be sure to place the cap back on the service port. You can then use a 5mm Allen wrench to open up the valves to allow the refrigerant and everything into the lines for your low pressure and high pressure lines going back to your indoor unit. These are pretty easy to open, and you'll definitely feel when it starts to resist when you get to the all the way open state. No need to push it. Now, to make sure everything is leak free, you want to spray some soapy water onto all of your joints, and what you're looking for is any bubbles that are being created. You'll get some bubbles initially when you spray it, but then it shouldn't be generating any new bubbles. If it is, that means you might have some air coming out and you need to tighten things up even better. Keep an eye on this process for 3 or 4 minutes to check for any leaking at all. If everything looks good, you can dry it off, put your 2 caps back on, and then replace the service cover. Now, don't mind my ghetto cover here that I had to tape up. The UPS company kind of bashed in our condenser unit a little bit, so I've got a new one coming from Toso. They were happy to replace it, but in the meantime, I wanted to get it covered up. I put together this diagram to show you what's coming next, and a lot of people don't explain this real well, but basically, by code, in the United States at least, and you'll want to check your local code both in the US and outside the US, you need to have an AC disconnect or an air conditioner quick disconnect within just a few feet of your condenser. So up on the top, we've already got our indoor unit installed inside the shop. Then we've got our refrigerant lines, signal cable, and condensate drain coming down. Those connect to the outdoor unit or the condenser, which is sitting on the wall mount. Now the next steps that we're going to take are everything on the right. Now starting from the very right, we have our circuit breaker box, and the location of this will vary depending on your situation. I've got one on the outside of my house, but here on the wood shop, it's inside the wood shop and it's a separate sub panel. So I need to run a line from my circuit breaker box to the outside of the shop and get it to that AC disconnect. So in order to do that properly, I need to use some EMT or conduit, and I'm going to run that with my wire inside of it going to the AC disconnect, and then I use what's called a whip to connect the AC disconnect to the condenser. Now, just to be super clear on this, I highly recommend that you have an electrician either help you out with this, guide you on this, or do it for you. I'm pretty comfortable with this electrical work and have done a lot of this before, and so I'm happy to walk you through it, but I always recommend that you have an electrician check your work, consult with you, or just do the job. In order to move forward with the electrical work, we need to know what size of breaker we need, and if it's single pole or double pole, and then what size wiring we need with that. Now, most of this will depend on the mini split that you're using. I've got a 12,000 BTU that runs on 220 volt. And by the way, 220 or 230 are the same thing. 110 to 120 also the same thing. Those are just acceptable ranges within your voltage. So you can see on the second row there, my 12,000 BTU 220 volt would require a double pole 15 amp circuit breaker. And then along with that, I want to run at least 14-2 cable. And all that means is the gauge or the thickness of the wires is 14 gauge. And then the 2 means that there are 2 wires in there besides the ground. So I've got a neutral, a line, and then a ground. That said, you always want to make sure that your Romex or the wire that you're using matches the amperage of the breaker. The last thing you want to do is put a 30 amp double pole breaker in there and then connect that with some 14 gauge wimpy little wire that can't handle that capacity. Before you touch anything, make sure the power is completely off to everything that you're going to be working on. With that off, I was able to remove the door for my circuit breaker panel inside the shop, and then I cut open the drywall so that I can drill through some of the studs behind there to pass the line. Now yes, this is a little bit of a pain if you have to do it this way because you're going to have some drywall repair after, but I've got some videos showing you how to repair that as well if you want to check those out. Next, I measured the height that I needed to drill from the outside so that I knew exactly where that wire would go as it connects to the circuit breaker panel. Now, because I had a large elbow box being installed, I wanted to drill a fairly large hole that could countersink into. And also, yes, I should have been wearing some safety glasses while I was drilling. I then used a 1-inch drill to drill through the center of the stud so I could pass my wire through to the circuit breaker panel. Like butter. Circuit breaker panels have pop-outs all over them that are meant for just these sorts of additions. This particular unit came with this 16 gauge wire. There's about 16 feet of it, and that's fine, I guess. I just don't feel really comfortable using 16 gauge wire when we're running a 220 amp on a condenser. So I happen to have some of this stuff. You can see the bag's been around. It's been in my shop for a while and I haven't used it, but I think it's time to use it. This is 10 gauge and it's 3 wire plus ground, which is more than we need. We just need 2 wires plus ground, but wire is expensive and I don't want to go buy another one. So I'm just gonna use this one. It's 15 feet, which is enough. And so I'll run this into our circuit breaker panel and then out to our disconnect. And I'll show you that process now. I fed my 10 gauge wire into the shop and then into the circuit breaker panel itself. Anything that's coming into the circuit breaker panel should have a collar on it that helps hold it in place so that nothing can get yanked or tugged out of place. Now I did do things a little out of order here. I really should have fed the wire with the sheathing into the box and then stripped it, but I got a little ahead of myself there. From there, I could snap my adapter into the box and then prepare my lines. Now this is a process I call clip and strip. You want to clip everything to the exact length that it needs to be for inside your circuit breaker box, and then you need to strip off usually about a ½ inch or so from the end. Now because I've got the 10-2 wiring here, I wanted to get the 30 amp double pole breaker to match that. As you can see up towards the top on that second row, all I really needed for this case was a double pole 15 amp circuit breaker if I was using the 14 gauge wire. The circuit breaker just snaps into place. You hook the right side in if it's on the right side of the panel and then push it onto its receptacle. On a double pole circuit breaker like this, there are a couple of ways you can handle this, but to make things simpler as far as color coding, I decided to install the neutral and the line, which is the black, right into the circuit breaker itself. So in this box, the connections that we've made are the ground that goes to the ground bus bar, and then we've got our neutral and our lines, the black and white, that are connected to the double pole circuit breaker itself. To keep my red line out of the way, I simply put a cap on it and moved it to the bottom of the box. I then cut the paper on my insulation to wrap around the wiring so that it's still at its full size, and there are probably 3.
The Mr. Cool DIY Ceiling Cassette is the newest addition to the DIY system. It's a cutting-edge, do-it-yourself ductless mini-split, versatile enough for most any space.
Alright, today we are installing a nice Mitsubishi 12,000 BTU one-way ceiling cassette, as you can see right here. What this will do is actually just recess nicely in the ceiling, so the first thing that we'll always do is make sure we have a
Here we go, you guys. This is Jared with Ductless Plus. We just got this attic access. I just want to show you what we do up here. We put these little bridges in. You can see we tighten them all down. We put an insulated washer there and then a washer on the bottom with the 3/8 nut and the all thread. And then basically you do that on all 4 sides. That's so that you can catch everything. And Scavuzzo here are gonna slide these in. You hook one side like so. And the other side goes in, and then it just locks in there. Good. You can see it doesn't take too much time, but you do got to be careful. The little blue tabs that you see right there, they have to be flush with the bottom of the drywall. So they'll start tightening up the washer and the nut. There's Denver. This is Julian. This is Fabian.
So, yep, David Hazel with Mitsubishi Electric, and I want to introduce our newer indoor heating and cooling equipment, indoor product line that's allowing now the unit to come off the wall and to go up into a ceiling, and to allow for installation of either retrofit or new construction with 16 on center floor joists, slides right up in between there, and allows for heating, cooling, dehumidifying, and filtering the space in that zone, and in rooms to spend the most time, or could even do the whole home.